Welcome to another Eat With Me video as I share some never before shared mindful eating tips. So I have my food here in front of me. You can't see it. You'll be able to see it soon. So basically I have some veggies and a Beyond Meat burger. And I also have these little potato, are you gonna be able to see that? Little potato things. I don't know what they're called in English. It's like basically potato puree inside, a little crispy outside. Today I'm here to give you some more mindful eating tips. I always try to give tips that are different. Of course, I always will go over the main important ones, so it ends up sticking in your brain because repetition is what works. But in each video, we're gonna focus on something a little bit different. And for this video, I really wanted to focus on the before the meal and the posture, like during the meal, all of these things that we don't really talk about. So first thing you wanna do, this I talk about, but before the meal, you want to check in with your hunger signals. You can use the hunger fullness scale. I'm gonna put the scale right here, and I have a whole video on the hunger fullness scale if you want to learn to use it more. But in short, what you need to do is position yourself on the scale. Either you're starving, like you're way at the top at 1, or you're like super full, that's like number 10. And before eating, you want to be around a 3, 4, and you don't want to be like starving. A general rule of thumb I like to use so you don't get to the starving portion is that you eat within 30 minutes of you starting to feel hunger. And if you feel hunger and you don't have a meal plan, like you haven't cooked yet, you don't know what you're gonna eat, whatever, then now is the time to get into it. Now, another super important tip is that if you do find yourself on the scale at like 1 or 2 because you've waited too long, you know, stuff like that happens sometimes, I would recommend before you eat your meal that you already prepared, you need to have like a little snack, a little something, because it's really hard to eat mindfully if you are starving, if you are ravenous. You're not going to be able to do all of the tips I tell you. And I found that with a lot of my clients is that they tell me I literally like know the steps, but I can't do them because I'm just so hungry. I just eat and then I'm like, oh no, I need to eat mindfully. So that you don't do that, either you can have a little snack or maybe have a little portion of your meal before you actually do the mindful eating part. But for me, I found either grazing a bit as I cook or having like a little snack. When I say snack, I don't mean anything crazy. Like I will generally have some nuts or like some baby carrots and hummus, or some bread with like some nut butter, some fruit, whatever I have lying around. Sometimes I even do leftovers of something else I have. I also do yogurt sometimes, or like an egg. And I know this is probably different than what you're used to hearing, which is like you shouldn't snack before you eat or it's gonna spoil your appetite. That is, again, just if you're starving. If you're a normal level of hungry, you don't need to snack before your meal. But if you are starving, snack, wait like 10 minutes, and then you're gonna be in a way better position to actually eat mindfully and actually enjoy your meal more. So another important aspect of mindful eating is you want to get the portions right. And this is hard. For me now, I really know myself and I'm pretty good with my portions. But if you find that you have a hard time with portions, you can try this little tip. So basically, if you know that it's going to be hard for you to stop when you're full, to like listen to fullness, you can always give yourself a little less food than what you want. So, I mean, I'm gonna give myself the full burger to show you, because that I would probably eat the full thing because I need the full amount of protein. But let's say for the veggies, I'm gonna leave a little bit in the pan. And then the little potato, I'm going to not as much as I think I would want. So what I think I would want is like the whole thing, but I'm just going to be like, okay, I'm gonna just eat this and then see how we do. And I'm actually gonna do this with you to show you what happens after. So now my plate looks like this, and it's a little less than what I want, but I'll explain why that's good later on. Okay, so now that my plate is portioned out, it's time to sit down at the table. And I really emphasize this part about sitting down because I have so many clients who just eat like standing up, or who don't bother to take the time to actually make a plate that looks nice, or it doesn't have to be like fancy, but at least you have the plate, you have your food, and it looks appetizing to you. It gets like all your senses kind of like stimulated so that you get excited to eat, you get in the right headspace to eat. It's good that you're positioned in a way that your plate is like in front of you and you don't have to like do any weird thing in order to get the food to your mouth. Lying down, that's not great. If you're sitting on the floor or sitting at like on a small table and you're kind of like twisted in order to get your food to your mouth, not great. And it's really good that you're looking at your food while you eat. You're signaling to your brain, okay, we're eating now. Look at this visual stimulation here and enjoy it. And this also helps with feeling satiated and full. One thing I also want to talk about is the speed at which you eat your meals, because I know that that's an issue for a lot of people who feel like they eat too fast and it's really hard for them to eat slowly. So the tips, like all the tips I give are actually helpful to eat more slowly. If you really focus on all of them, you will have to take more time. But if you want one really specific example, I really recommend that you set a timer for however long you want your meal to last. So let's say you want your meal to last like 20 minutes, then set a timer for 20 minutes and then tell yourself, I need to make this last 20 minutes. So you do whatever you gotta do, but even if you finish in 5 minutes, you still have to sit for the remaining 15 minutes. So that's not fun. And if you put the timer somewhere you can see it, like in front of you, you can kind of adjust your pace. You can be like, okay, it's only been 3 minutes and I'm already like halfway done. I need to slow down. Because if you have it in your head, it's not gonna be enough and you're just not gonna do it. Now, one of the keys of mindful eating that people find super hard is that you should be really focused on your food. Because if you're watching a movie and you're super engaged in that movie, it's going to be really hard for your brain to understand that you're eating and for it to be really satisfied with the food that you're eating. There's not going to be any satisfaction if you're not paying attention to it. One way you can kind of focus on your meal more, pay more attention, make it a little bit fun. So I like to have, whenever I make like a bite of food, like my fork, when I get my fork ready, I like to have at least 2 of the food items on my fork. And here I even have like different veggies so that I can kind of taste like all the different aspects of it. And then in my head, as I'm chewing, I'm like, oh yeah, that's that. And you know, I see if it tastes good together or not. That way I can really focus on it. It's interesting for me to see like what overpowers what. Like if I take the meat and the veggies, I mean the fake meat and the veggies overpowers it, but with the potatoes and the veggies overpower the potato. And when I talk about distractions, often people will ask me, well, what about eating with other people? Isn't that a distraction? And I mean, technically you're not going to be as focused on your food, but it's not comparable at all to you watching your phone or a movie. For the same reason that you're not allowed to watch a movie when you drive, but you are allowed to talk to other passengers. When you're eating with other people, you are sharing the meal experience. You're eating the same thing. You can exchange about what you're eating, talk about what you like, what you don't like, different opinions. And even if you don't talk about the meal, you are still sharing the meal and you are still taking the time to stop, pause your eating in order to respond to the person. And this will make the meal experience more satisfying, and also it will make it last longer because you are pausing to talk. So in my last Eat With Me video, you can check it out right here. I'm gonna put the link here or in the description. I also talked about a little tip that you can use when you feel like you have to eat with a screen or with a movie or like a book or whatever, because if you don't, you feel lonely and you don't enjoy your meal as much. I understand, and I have some tips for you in order to do that in the best way possible. So check out the video for that. Another little tip you can do to slow down your eating is to make sure that you have entirely cleaned out your mouth before you eat. Kind of like if you were to talk to somebody else, you wouldn't talk with your mouth full, you wouldn't talk with like bits of food still remaining. You would finish that bite up immediately, maybe have some water, and once that's done, you would talk. So do the same thing before taking a new bite. Make sure that your previous bite has gone. Now, we're getting to the part of the meal that I wanted to address when it comes to portion sizes. Because like I said earlier, if you find it difficult to stop when you're full, then you want to do this little trick where you're actually giving yourself less than what you want. So what happens when you're pretty much done with your food, you can take a moment and think about how you feel, rate yourself on the hunger scale, and ask yourself if you'd like more food or not. Because let me be very clear, if you are still hungry, you should absolutely get more food. But it's much better to do it in that way because you have to actively decide that you want to get up and get more food. So you're only going to do so if you truly are hungry or want the food. Whereas if it's on your plate and you're used to just being like needing to finish off your plate, then chances are it's going to be harder for you to stop when you're full. And so you can go past your fullness much easier. So for me, I've reached this stage where I feel like pretty satisfied, but I know that I can eat a little bit more, and I have like a little bit of Beyond Burger left and then a few potatoes. So in order for things to stay kind of like balanced, and this is like mainly for me for taste aspect, like not necessarily balanced in terms of nutrients, you know, it's fine, but I am going to serve myself some more veggies. And I'm also going to finish up the little potatoes. And this is good because it's always harder to stop an action than to create a new action. So again, if you're just finishing off your plate because it's there, you need to stop that action in order to ask yourself if you're still full. But if your plate is empty and you have like a little bit less to eat than what you would have wanted, then the action is going to be you asking yourself if you're still hungry, positioning yourself on the hunger fullness scale, and then deciding whether you want to get more food or not. So I decided to get more food this time because I was still a little bit hungry, but sometimes I decide not to get more food, and I'm glad that I didn't put too much on my plate to begin with, so I don't have to throw it away. I can just save it for leftovers. Look at my timer. It's almost been 20 minutes. I literally always eat this slow, even slower sometimes. I think it's just because I'm used to it, honestly. Okay, that's the end of my meal. I also encourage you when you're done eating to take a few minutes before you get up, before you do the dishes, before you go back to work or whatever, if you can, and just let your brain get the message that you're done eating. Just let everything kind of sit for a while, and this just gives you some more time to feel satisfied and full and content from your meal. And I almost forgot to show you my dessert, just some berries, and then I might have some chocolate because I still have some leftover Easter chocolate I need to finish. That's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to like it, subscribe, and see you on my next one. Bye.